Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Shaka Hislop, and Craig Burley is here as well. We also welcome Stuart Robson to the show. It's with the Premier League that we'll start. 6 big questions that the weekend has generated. Starting off, Craig, how on earth did Norwich beat Manchester City?
Well, it can happen. That's what I would say. The other side of the coin is, we talked last week, and many people have talked about the Laporte injury and how long that's going to take and how that will affect him at the back. And they're trying to play out from the back. Yep. So they did it at Liverpool in match day 1 and got hammered. But their philosophy is quite clear. We're going to play no matter what. I don't think City will face that every week with teams that are inferior to them. But they're going to have to sort out, A, their back line, and 2, be a bit more clinical in the final third. That being said, I'm sure there's quite a few out there looking to write them off already, and it is very early.
Robert, how did this happen?
When the ball changed hands, Norwich were the better team in certain aspects of the game, and that's happened. They scored the 2 counter-attacking goals. Man City's shape was all wrong when they lost possession. They didn't make the right recovery runs. And Norwich City, when they defended their box, they defended it really well. And Man City weren't quite at their best. That final pass, that final ball into the front player, the final finish wasn't quite good enough in that first half when they were dominating the first 20 minutes. And as Craig said, didn't defend a set play, and Otamendi got it all wrong with Stones when they were trying to play out from the back late on in the game, and that culminated in Man City having one of their worst performances for quite some while.
I agree fully. I thought there was also a sense of complacency from Manchester City, that they felt they just had to show up against an injury-ravaged Norwich, and the points were all but guaranteed. Norwich quite clearly had different plans. Added to that, you throw in Otamendi in the mix, who decides to do as only he does, and Norwich get these 3 points.
They are still the team to beat, though.
Well, that leads... Let's just lead that into my next question, because you said that people are keen to write them off. The bookies still have Manchester City as favourites.
They're the team to beat, right? No, I'll give it you. Liverpool...
Should Liverpool be favourites? 5 points clear.
No, because you and I had a little discussion, sat at our desk. It was only a little one, because we don't like to talk too much. And...
Is that when I have to listen a lot?
Oh, well, that's when Steve is in. So where are we now? Let me get my bearings right. Middle of September.
We're 5 games in.
Right, yeah, 5 games in. I can't remember exactly, but Liverpool, round about Christmas and New Year last year, had a big lead, right? With, you know, half the season still to go. And for whatever reason, it crumbled a little bit for them and City pulled them back. I think this points gap for me could be a lot bigger, and I still would not write Man City off. I mean, it's a body blow for them. Well, you know, they're still the #1 team for Joe Average in the Premier League to go and beat.
But they were so bad. They were so bad. Reports out till next year. Liverpool look unbeatable at the moment.
And maybe look, and it is early. You know, Stones and Otamendi might have to sort themselves out. He may have to put a midfielder back in there. He may have to move a Kyle Walker in there. He may have to juggle. The one thing that you know, I do know is that maybe they're regretting not going the extra yard or 2 for Harry Maguire. Maybes.
Well, that's a no-brainer. We know Otamendi's not very good. We know that he's past it. This isn't a massive revelation. Otamendi can't run or defend anymore.
I think somebody said, and I'm sure it wasn't the manager, just said, look, there's a cut-off. That's what we're willing to pay.
But it's not Harry Maguire or nothing. Surely there's somebody else out there who's better than Otamendi that Manchester City could have brought in. It just seems a dereliction of duty from them during the summer not to have some sort of backup.
Well, but off the back of one game, I know it's not, off the back of one really bad defeat, away from home, you know, Otamendi's an experienced player. You know, Pep Guardiola was raving about him last season. This early in the season.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, what I'm saying is...
He's not going to not rave about him, is he?
What he was raving about him, saying this guy will run through a brick wall. He's come back from worse than this, right?
But he's old and slow.
Well, he's not that. He's not 64.
Well, he looked it. He looked it at the weekend.
Well, that's why I'm saying he might have to he might have to go with a midfielder. He might have to go with a change of shape. These are the decisions he's going to have to make. You know, at the end of the day, you know, they've lost company. Laporte's out. And they didn't go for Harry Maguire because of the extra money. They knew what they had going into this season.
Listen, I'm with you, Dan. I think City should have signed a centre-back in the summer, and it's showing as much. To that point, though, I think writing City off and making Liverpool favourites are two totally different things.
Yeah.
Just because Liverpool are favourites doesn't mean that City can't stage a comeback. At the same time, I think this Liverpool team has shown that they are able to learn from mistakes or near misses. Get to a Champions League final, and then somehow they put it right 12 months later. They had the title to lose 9 months ago, and just dropped points at key times that allowed City back in. I think this is a Liverpool team that learns from that. Given a 5-point gap, I know it's still very early, a lot of football to be played, but I think this is a better Liverpool team because of that experience, and so I make them favourites.
Robbo, should Liverpool be favourites?
I think so. Manchester City, in my view, are still the best footballing team. They're still the best side. Guardiola is still the best coach. But Liverpool look as though they got the bit between their teeth. Even when they went 1-0 down, they knew they could get back into the game. They're playing with a greater urgency. They look as though they've learnt their lessons from the last couple of seasons, and they look a much better side. And I saw that in that Community Shield game, when it was a full-on game, and they were desperate to win the game. They outplayed Man City in the second half, and I just felt after that, that gave them that extra confidence to go and say, we can go and win this title.
Is Mane Liverpool's main man? Next question, Robbo.
No, Salah's still the main man. Mane will play well on occasions, and he's still an excellent player. When they don't play with Firmino and he has to come through centre-forward position, he does it very well. But still, the positional play, the movement of Salah, he's still their best player. Mane's a very close second in those front three.
That's true maybe 12 months ago, but surely over the last year, Mane has been much more important, hasn't he, than Salah?
He's a different sort of player. He's somebody that tries to make runs and he can play in the centre-forward position. But I would still say the cleverer player is Salah. The player that I would want in the side, if there was a choice of one of the two, or the other, I would pick Salah still over Mane. But Mane's a great player, no question about that.
Who are you having?
I would go the opposite way. I'd go for Mane. I think we talked about it in the show the other week when Stevie and I said Mane, and then 24 hours later, whatever it is, Salah scored, and then everybody's going, I told you. Pace, game away, and he's adding, end product to his game. I think Mane is the scarier of the two for a defender.
I go Salah. I think Salah is still the most important of that front three. That being said, though, both Mane and Firmino, you get to see exactly how good they are, exactly how important they are, almost when they aren't there. As Firmino comes off the bench on the weekend and makes a couple of passes that nobody else could see or could do. And you understand the value to that front three, but I still think it's a front three that's led by
See, that's two apiece.
Salah.
Oh, who's the second? Who's the other person?
Stevie, I'm talking for him.
Oh, my goodness. You really are an old married couple now. I tell you what, if you're...
I've made my mind up. He's saying Mane.
Robbo, Arsenal.
No.
Yeah, what about them?
Exactly.
An absolute shambles. An absolute shambles. I mean, when they're going forward, when they get the ball into the front players, when they're playing on the counter-attack with pace, Pepe looks good, Aubameyang looks like he's going to score 2 or 3 goals every game with his movement and his pace. Ceballos, when he's on the ball, makes things happen. Even Ozil at the weekend picked out a good pass for Maitland-Niles. But when they haven't got the ball, some of their defensive play was absolutely shocking in terms of their recovery runs, their shape. It was too open. The speed of the recovery runs wasn't good enough. The athleticism wasn't good enough. And then when they're trying to play out from there, I saw them against Burnley when Burnley kept on winning the ball back, and that was at the Emirates, and they kept on winning the ball back by pressing players high up the field, and Arsenal still try to play out from the back. They just haven't learnt their lesson. I mean, the twice they gave the ball away when they played it into Guendouzi, there's no room for him to play. And he tries to get turned, they nick the ball off him, they can't score in the first half, Watford. But the second one, Socrates, I mean, what's he doing? But that comes...
He's left.
Should have given the job to Steve Bold. That's what they should have done.
Well, I tell you the thing, the Arsenal, Robbo mentioned their defensive structure, which has always, in recent times, been a headache for them. And I don't just mean defence. I mean, you could throw in the strikers, but primarily midfield and defence as a defensive structure. But I think one of the biggest problems, not just over the weekend, but over the last couple of years, is when they're in possession, in good possession, and Robbo mentioned the attacking players that they've got, we know they're exciting to watch going forward, and there lies the problem. Quite often when they lose the ball or it gets nicked, they have no real structure in place when the ball's lost, and they get broken down far too easily. And I think it's organisation. It's having somebody, experienced players that are saying, making sure they're not getting 6 and 7 players ahead of the ball all at once when they get caught, and they at least have a full-back, some defensive midfielders around to cover those attacking players. I don't think they have that or clever enough to deal with it.
Staying in North London, Shaq. Our top... What were you going to say?
They played well at the weekend. They played well at the weekend because they got back to what they're good at doing. And that was playing balls over the top, players making forward runs, winning the ball back quickly. That's what we thought Pochettino was maybe 6 months ago. That's what Tottenham did. They were high energy, high pressing, balls over the top, players making forward runs. That's what they did against Crystal Palace. They haven't done that for the last 3 or 4 months, and that's why they've just gone off the boil.
Final question.
Yeah.
Is Tammy Abrahams better than you thought?
Well, there's a different way to answer this. He's not necessarily better than I thought, but he's done better than I thought. Does that register?
No.
No.
Not at all.
I'm a little confused too.
The 11 consecutive goals that Chelsea have scored,
Yep.
or any team, have been scored by players aged 21 and under. Now, is that not... Show me you.
Nothing.
Now, is that not completely against the grain of what this club's been all about? That's my point, in recent years. So it's a great time for these youngsters, and they're all doing
But
well.
it's all going to go wrong.
No, not necessarily, but I don't think he can keep that pace up. 7 goals in the Premier League is a brilliant start, which is what I think he's got. And they're all been given their head by Frank Lampard. And you've got the other 2 coming back, and Loftus-Cheek and Hudson-Odoi. I saw Pulisic was on the bench.
Yeah.
But these young guys, I mean, to go to Wolves and win 5-2, that's fantastic.
Ah, there you are. Got a compliment in the end at Chelsea. Gab and Jules podcast is available to download. The boys breaking down what only happened in the Premier League, but what else occurred across Europe this weekend. As are the Champions League is back tomorrow. Some big matches as well to look forward to. We'll start, shall we, by focusing on Borussia Dortmund against Barcelona. You take a look at the odds to advance to that group. Barca 16-1 on Borussia Dortmund, then second favourite. Inter Milan, who of course had a perfect start so far in Italy, 11-10 on Slavia Prague, very much the outsiders. Focusing on this game, Dortmund against Barcelona. We know that Messi is back in the squad. Be interesting to see how much he features. A real test for Barca and indeed for Dortmund as well.
Yeah, as an acid test for both. Listen, if Messi's not 100% fit and he hasn't had much game time, do you take the risk with him? You know, looking at the next, 2 or 3 months ahead, it's going to be a busy period. Dortmund, a big win again, a big win at the weekend against Leverkusen. We know Lucien Favre's side play good stuff. I think they've got as good a chance as any to win the game at home. Bearing in mind Barcelona, they won at the weekend, but they've still not been great.
Of course, a Valencia side in turmoil, but the big talking point from that game was Fati, of course, a goal and assist. He could feature tomorrow, breaking records in the process.
How old is he?
As well.
16.
16.
And Julian made a good point. If Barcelona had indeed signed Neymar, we wouldn't be talking about Ansu Fati here. But yet still, he's the one who's set the early running and the back pages alight with his performances. And this is a huge step for him as well. But this is a tougher group than I think you'd think. Listen, I don't think there's a whole lot of room for error with an Inter team who are playing well under Antonio Conte, and Dortmund similarly, who are scoring quite freely. I don't think you take this game for granted, and you don't want to be playing catch-up later on in the competition. But with Messi being back, I think that puts the ball squarely in Barcelona's court.
Meanwhile, Napoli taking on the defending champions Liverpool in Group E. This one you would imagine more straightforward for the 2 favourites to advance. An early test for Napoli after all their dressing room debacle. And for Liverpool, of course, looking to start the defence of their title off on a high.
Yeah, but again, talk about a team set up to go away from home and perform. It's Liverpool. We talk about Salah and Firmino and Mane, the pace, the solid defence. It is a perfect scenario, I think. And even though they're in the group stages last year, their away form was poor.
Yep.
And then, as the tournament wore on, they went to Bayern Munich, crushed them away from them. Then we started to see the real Liverpool. Napoli kept a clean sheet at the weekend. They've been losing some goals. They are the home side. I think a draw for me, and I think that would be a good result for Liverpool.
I agree. And listen, this is a Liverpool team. And the way this group is set up, you're going to finish in the top 2. between Liverpool and Napoli, and I don't think finishing second scares Liverpool all that much. Yes, you'd prefer to finish first, but it doesn't bother you, especially what happened last season's group stages. You take a point here. You're firmly focusing on what's happening in the league and all things going well so far for Liverpool.
Of course, be reflecting on those games, plus the other big talking points from tomorrow's Champions League matches on the next edition of FC. Be sure to join us. Frank Leboeuf then with us. Frank, it's only one subject, isn't it? Neymar. Wow, what a return.
Yeah, what a return. Fantastic. He won. He was maybe the only good player, especially at France, in Paris Saint-Germain, creating a lot, and of course saving the club with the 3 points at the 92nd minute. Fantastic player that we all know that he's a fantastic player. He has the talent on the field, but he also has the talent of destroying every love that the fans can give to him. So straight after the game, he says again a silly comment saying that he knows that he's going to play away from home for the rest of the season. You know, just be quiet, just be happy. You score a goal, people start forgiving you in a way. And just think about the next game. It's going to be a long term before people forgive you, because fans are very, very upset.
But do you think this will help going forward? Surely scoring a winning goal every week, the fans will somewhat forget what he did during the summer.
No, I think the fans don't have no doubt about the quality of the player, but also the fact that that guy doesn't respect the institution, the clubs and the fans. He doesn't want to be in Paris. He doesn't want to play anymore for Paris. His father even said it like 4 or 5 days ago. He doesn't show respect to the club. So as long as he plays for the club, he can score any goals that he wants. Fans will say, well done. But we don't love you anymore. So it's going to be a tricky situation for him. Maybe if he says, I'm sorry, I will never say any words anymore, and I will work very hard for the club, maybe at a certain point people will start forgiving him. But so far, it's a long, long process before it happens.
Just from a purely professional point of view, you've got to be impressed, haven't you?
Yeah, another 40 of those goals and he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, but at the end of the day, yeah, look, it's going to be a big test of his character this year, because we know he wants to go. The fans know that he wants to go. So that's crystal clear. He's going to pretty much get it home and away wherever he goes. He's going to have to deal with that. But we know, behind all this circus, that he is a super talented footballer. And if he can play under that hostility for a year or 6 months or a year before he leaves for wherever, then I'll give him kudos for that, because that is not going to be easy.
He could have hidden Shaq, and in the end, in the 90th minute, he tries an audacious scissor kick, and it works, and he scores the winner.
And that just speaks to Neymar's talent, which I don't think anybody's ever questioned. It's about the application of that talent. And yes, this was a huge step in the right direction. I think he continues to do that. The fans will, well, forgive but not forget. And ultimately, PSG and Neymar will be judged on what happens in the Champions League. Let's see how that goes.
He's, of course, suspended for the opening 3 matches in the group stages of the Champions League. They're big favourites to advance to the knockout stages with Real Madrid in a relatively easy group. Inter Milan, then, the only perfect team left in Italy. 3 wins out of 3 for them. Juve dropping their first points of the season as they can only manage a 0-0 draw away against Fiorentina. Interesting stuff from Sarri afterwards. While playing in mid-afternoon in Florence when it's realistically still summer is tough for everyone. We used up all our substitutions with injuries and had no more fresh legs to introduce. Conte was asked about that quote. He wasn't particularly sympathetic to Juventus' cause, saying, I don't want to say anything, otherwise we'll have to start comparing balance sheets and financial resources. Someone ought to calm down, as he's on the powerful side now.
So I just went on to visit Florence.
Did you? Are we off? ESPN FC on the road?
Lovely place, by the way. The warmest months are generally July and August,
right,
whilst June and September are both nice and warm without it being too hot.
Oh, beautiful.
Perfect.
Right, OK. What relevance does that have to anything?
Well, it's not exactly the Sahara Desert, is it? I mean, there's not camels going around, where like, you're out there for 3 days with no water. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you've got to deal with it, even if it is a little bit hotter than normal, and I don't know if it was or not, but you've got to deal with it. Fiorentina had 18 pops at the Juventus goal. They only managed to muster 8, so it wasn't exactly peppering the goal. Wasn't a great performance, looking for excuses. You got Inter, who've spent a bit of money, got an experienced manager back in there now who's got them organised. You got Ancelotti in his 2nd season at Napoli, want to play a certain way. And it's early days, they're only 2 points off the top, but it's been a little bit unconvincing. Absolutely flying against Napoli a week or so ago, and then almost threw it away.
Yeah.
You know, Juventus have been absolutely strolling this league, and if they don't win it this year, and that's a big if, only one man will get the blame. That's the manager.
Well, what's Sarri doing?
I
Come
don't
out
know.
and say, you know, we were lucky to get a point, poor performance, move on. Stop blaming the weather and the substitution.
Agreed. Yeah, I know. I fully agree. Listen, I don't know. You know, I think it's pretty innocent in maybe his intent in what he said, but you know, you have to take the big picture into consideration here. And if you're Juventus, it's okay to play poorly, and it's okay to drop points on the road. I don't think anybody's buying any kind of an excuse. Sarri, again, just still acclimatizing to that role. This is one that let's chalk up to experience.
Apparently, Gab's tweeted in he's more than willing to take you to Florence on a very detailed historical visit to...
I think I may have been.
Really? With Gab?
Don't go out during...
No, go with Gab is a
Don't go
completely
out in
different
midday.
experience.
Don't go out in the middle of the day, though. It's hot.
Thank you very much, guys.
It's
Thanks
too
to
hot
Robert
in
and Frank as well.
September.
We'll be back tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.